Mr. Frank Liaus, the Secretary of State of Entrepreneur, Competitiveness and Innovation. Please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to start thanking the organization for the invitation. It is a great pleasure to be here, namely when it is possible to see that there is a very diversified meeting with people coming from many different locations, and this is necessarily something that I have to congratulate the organization, showing how it is possible to join lots of people from different locations, in first place in Portugal, which is always a pleasure and a proudness for us, and namely to talk about manufacturing as a key element in the discussion. It is clearly a very fashionable, let's say, discussion nowadays in Europe, and not only in Europe, even in the United States, the theme of reindustrialization and the need to refocus the balance between the different economic areas that have a contribution to the global wealth production in each country. Of course, in my view, when we talk about reindustrialization, and in Portugal we as a government are really putting a lot of effort on that program, jointly with many other different European nations, and in a strategic move led by the Vice President of the European Commission, Mr. Tajani. But of course we have to talk about reindustrialization not as a return to the old manufacturing systems, which necessarily no longer will come back, and in reality at their time, but the need to look at manufacturing in probably a rather different way, as Mr. Westcamper could refer, and as we could see, manufacturing nowadays is much more than just the heavy metal, let's call it, activities. We're talking about a set of activities where the intangible elements are probably much more important than the tangible elements. As Peter Drucker referred in the famous book, The Post-Capitalist Society, we are coming more and more to a situation where the intangible assets are increasingly important, and it is clear that the traditional statistical approach to measure value are outdated. Probably some of you have noticed that in the United States there has been recently a restatement of the GDP, whereby an increase in GDP was considered by introducing in the value generated the investment made in R&D and some other areas that traditionally were mostly considered as just expenditure with no added value attached to them. So there's clearly the need to refocus on manufacturing, but in my view with this kind of view where the tangible element of manufacturing is probably so important as it is the more physical element of it. And in reality, as we can see historically in economic terms, in agriculture nowadays we have much less population attached to it as it was a century ago, but the level of production of agriculture has increased dramatically with much less people associated and probably less area for that production. So the element of productivity and increased efficiency on resource allocations and production is clearly also associated with all elements within the manufacturing discussion nowadays. As it was said, it is clearly a period where networking and cooperation is key. It's no longer a standalone kind of approach, and of course, in the case of Europe, we have lots of advantages if we work together. As you know, we always talk about Europe being the largest economic bloc in the world, but then in many cases, unfortunately, national interests really block that efficiency that would come from taking advantage of the global European approach. But I think things are getting in the right direction, and there are many experiences about putting together joint efforts, and clearly this meeting is a proof that we can work together and see how the different elements and the different type of individuals and characteristics of each nation can be an advantage when we work as a bloc. In the case of Portugal, we as a government have two main axes regarding this area. One is our cluster policy, where we have put a lot of interest in trying to put together the industry and the companies with R&D centers, universities, and corporations, associations, just trying to create this need, which is particularly paramount in the case of Portugal, to work together. As you know, we are an SME country with many small companies, many of them of very recent creation, and they only can thrive if there is some kind of joint action, and this need to network, to work together, is clearly fitted to develop this cluster idea. So, in Portugal, clusters are clearly a key element. The other element is the use of, namely, financial availability of funds, namely European grants, to support this section. And the European grants, as it was mentioned, through COMPET and some other programs that are supported by the European Commission, have been very important in financing initiatives that, again, look after R&D programs oriented towards actual results in economic terms. Produtech is clearly a case of success in the cluster policy that we have developed. They have been able to develop many different initiatives. I'm not going to waste too much time on that, but in reality, many projects developed by Produtech are associated with technology transfer into companies and economic initiatives, which is really important. They have been always working together with SMEs, so almost 75% of their projects are joint programs that put together the cluster entity with these companies. And finally, Produtech has been very active in participating in many trans-European initiatives, and mostly in the Money Future initiative. And I think they have been playing a very active role, and I think that everybody can assess that the Portuguese are not lagging behind the other countries in what it concerns our capability to be in the forefront of technology, our capability to look after very global markets, and our capability to assimilate and use the state-of-the-art developments on all these areas. So it's clearly an example, and I think that generally speaking, that is a reflection of the capabilities of the Portuguese manufacturing areas. Just to finalize, and because I have this opportunity to address a very diversified assembly with many different people from abroad, I would like to say that the Portuguese government is quite keen on attracting foreign investors, young people, entrepreneurs to work with us in many different areas. We are trying to put together some elements that in our view are critical to address the attractiveness of the country, namely fighting against bureaucracy, and we have been trying to be very strong on reducing the red tape, the time it takes to make decisions, by again the introduction of information technology solutions that can give you an almost automatic decision-making process when licensing companies, licensing projects, etc. Also by creating a better fiscal environment for corporations. We are now on the process of reducing our income tax rate for companies, which necessarily, in our view, is a very important element when we're talking about attracting capital. And at the same time, we have some initiatives on the financing area with some venture capital solutions that in reality have a stronger leverage capability by, on our side, putting together European funding with local funding and financing initiatives that have significant potential for growth and differentiation factors. finally, on the entrepreneurship area, we also have some very important initiatives. As you are probably aware, Portugal has already lots of young kids and young boys that move across the world with no limitations, given the access to the internet and all these new technologies. So we have lots of young entrepreneurs that are really placing their business models across the world, from Australia to the United States to China, and having access to capital from all over the world as well. And these kids are really very, very open kids, very well qualified and skilled, and they are really an asset for everyone who wants to take advantage of that in Portugal. And we are also trying on that area to create an initiative that probably will be called Startup Portugal, where basically we want to create conditions to attract also young kids, young entrepreneurs to Portugal by giving them some conditions whereby they get acquainted with the conditions of the country, they start businesses, and we take advantage of their knowledge and their awareness of all that potential. So this is basically what I had to say. I hope that this was a very good experience for all of you, and expect that most of you will follow as well the Produtech workshop. It's a deserving initiative. So thanks a lot, and all the success for all of the members of this event. Thank you.